Well, in studio, I'm joined now by Sophie Mokoena. She's the SABC's News International Editor. Sophie, a very good afternoon to you. So, of course, a number of moving targets here. Let's firstly get your take then just on the global reaction of this particular war and the escalating calls for cessation. I mean, that call for one between Russian President Vladimir Putin as well as Chinese President Xi Jinping during a telephone call earlier today.
Well, international community is calling for a moment where the affected parties can talk about this nuclear armament allegations, which we know that Iran has made it clear that there's no such a thing. And this is not surprising. You'd recall when Saddam Hussein was killed in Iraq, similar allegations were made. And South Africa came out clear to say Iraq doesn't have weapons of mass destruction. South African government under Thabo Mbeki at that time sent scientists to go and investigate and check the nuclear sites. And there were no such information gathered. And that report was given to the United Nations so that the Security Council can discuss that report. But America and the United Kingdom, Tony Blair and Bush were adamant, and they took a unilateral action to invade Iraq, and that led to the death of Saddam Hussein. The same with Libya. The NATO, the resolution that was put before the Security Council that led to the killing of Muammar Gaddafi. And again, you had America, including the friends of America within the NATO, taking that unilateral action, and that led to the killing of Muammar Gaddafi. And therefore, we find ourselves as the world again almost experiencing a similar moment where there's a push. You can see there's a push to assassinate Ayatollah Khamenei. And much as President Trump is saying that he hasn't taken a decision yet, but the fact that the president of the most powerful nation, like United States of America, would make such utterances, it speaks to how the world is fractured and there's no leadership around the world. And you now see reports coming from Israel, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel, making similar utterances in terms of the intention to eliminate the leader of Iran. And therefore, you can't expect Iran and Iran's friends to wait and watch for that to happen. I think we are going to have a long night tonight. And we saw earlier on this morning those attacks that even reached the southern part of Israel, where a hospital was attacked, and also the stock exchange. And you can see that the tension, the war has escalated. We had earlier on the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that they are suffering heavy losses, him saying that they are sacrificing all from different sides. But what was shocking and irresponsible from a leader was that he then compared that with the situation where he had to postpone the wedding of his son because of confrontation, when other people have lost families and friends, parents at both sides, and you talk about the wedding of your son. That's how irresponsible leadership is currently. But it's not surprising. Last year when I spoke to the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, he did warn that it looks like there's no leadership around the world. Perhaps let's reflect back when I spoke to the SG, when he came to South Africa, lobbying South Africa in relation to the agenda of the G20. Let's hear what the SG had to say then about the kind of leadership we have around the world at this critical moment. Let's listen in.
As the big powers are so divided, nobody's afraid of them anymore. And as nobody's afraid of them anymore, there is a sense of impunity. Everybody can do whatever they want. Look at what's happening in Sudan. They are just fighting each other and nothing happens to them. And then you have other countries supporting them and giving them weapons. And then there is this mixture of internal problems with external problems and with interference from the outside, and not only from Africa, I mean, also from other parts of the world inside Africa. So this is a very difficult moment in which we see this lack of accountability. And there is one signal of hope. It was after years of fighting, it was possible to obtain from the Security Council.
The sense of impunity, that's what we are experiencing right now around the world. No one is providing proper leadership.
And I mean, that is very concerning, Sophie. And I mean, when you listen to also various voices, just listening to on the economic front, also the implications of this war, rising oil prices, rising fuel prices, just the global consequences. South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile is in Russia at the moment. What is South Africa's position on this particular matter? Of course, we saw President Cyril Ramaphosa at the G7 summit, where leaders are urging a de-escalation of the hostilities in the Middle East, including, of course, a ceasefire in Gaza, but stop short of calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. What can we read very quickly, Sophie, into this?
Well, clearly members of the G7 are in support of their allies, that is Israel, even though they have condemned, the killing of people. But we know where the West stands on this issue. But on the other hand, we have a powerful bloc emerging. China, Russia is against what Israel is doing. And we know that the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, has been talking to Iran, the same with China. And therefore, you don't have the same world anymore. During the Iraq war and Libya invasion, the situation was different. Now you have some powerful nations who have been marginalized by America, taking a different view. But with South Africa, we know the South African foreign policy is quite clear. It's all about maintenance of peace and negotiations. And that's what South Africa is pushing for from both sides, calling for peace talks and negotiations to resume, not taking sides. And I think that's the message the president communicated to the G7 member countries, because he was there as the leader of the G20, and all those G7 members are members of the G20, and therefore a bigger, stronger, more powerful group that has got China and Russia, not only just those few Western powers. And you can see that South Africa is not about to change its position in terms of its foreign policy of maintenance of peace and negotiations.
Sophie, thank you so much for unpacking all of that, of course, and giving that context. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor, joining us in studio.